Alrighty, so back in the very end of 2019 is when we got The Rise of Skywalker, and ever since then there's been a lot of Star Wars fans that have walked away from the franchise and said no more. Those are the exact type of fans that Disney executives are trying to get back into the Star Wars world by having Favreau and Filoni do a lot of things in their power to really turn things around for the Star Wars fandom. And they're really trying to work day in and day out to really just bring fans the best content as possible. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you also very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about the new universe is that Favreau and Filoni are creating a multitude of retcons for not just the sequel trilogy, but also for the prequels, the originals, in a good way, obviously, that's going to lend more to the story and give fans something more fun to look forward to and to actually change their perception on certain aspects of the Skywalker saga as a whole. Obviously, the sequel trilogy deserves some of the retcons and some changes to be made to the Star Wars lore. Now, what Favreau and Filoni have been up to so far has a lot to do with Rey's bloodline getting changed, her backstory getting drastically changed, even her full name getting drastically changed as well. We talked about this many times already. It's moving along pretty smoothly and will be made officially canon by next year. However, that brings us to the very end of the sequel trilogy films and exactly what's getting changed by Favreau and Filoni specifically. Now, of course, that brings us to the next thing here, and exactly what's been going on by John, Dave, and George. So, with many new Star Wars shows in development right now by Favreau and Filoni, creators like George Lucas are also helping out with them to bring Star Wars to a more successful place. Now, it's noted that Disney CEO Bob Chapek is currently making big patches and fixes with the Star Wars universe. Currently, right now, however, Favreau and Filoni are actively working on retconning the very end of the sequel trilogy with Episode 9 and how things left off. John and Dave are creating massive changes to the Star Wars lore that will be made canon by the end of 2023. Now, further, it's described that the big change that is being applied to the Star Wars ending involves the fact that Ben Solo's life force exchange was not only transferring his life force, but also, once he vanishes, Favreau and Filoni are working on making it canon that Ben Solo's essence travels to the world between worlds, where Favreau and Filoni are exploring a middle way between the mortal world of a person and one that is a Force ghost. This is said to be John and Dave's version of purgatory in Star Wars, and will be applied in the new canon. Now, I want to stop right here for 1 second. So Favreau and Filoni are making it canon that there is a middle way between when someone becomes one with the Force and when somebody is actually still alive and well. And again, this is basically John and Dave's version of purgatory, but in a different sense, because in this scenario, they are going to be trapped in the world between worlds. Now, this realm, by the way, is still a very big mystery. We really don't know all the lore behind it. We don't know all the facts behind the world between worlds just yet. And believe it or not, Favreau first got the idea of this when Thor: The Dark World mentioned the walls between walls. Believe it or not, that's how the overall name was inspired. And when you think about it like that too, you know, everything related to Star Wars Rebels really established, you know, everything related to the world between worlds and everything related to, you know, all of the different things for the Star Wars universe. Now, when you look at everything related to that, given that Favreau and Filoni are trying to make it clear that they are going to be ending Episode 9 in a different way with this new canon that's going to be made available to the Star Wars fans at the very end of next year. So that brings us to the next thing, of course, and exactly, you know, what's been happening with Ben Solo's life force exchange technique and how the lore for that's going to be completely changed. I mean, completely reversed and giving it a brand new meaning to it all. So that brings us to the next thing here that's even all the more important. So, what determines Ben Solo's fate on whether or not, he's going to actually become in a part of the mortal world or in the netherworld of the Force, all depends on his actions in the world between worlds. Now, not just that, however, but Favreau and Filoni are making a canon that when Ben Solo got force pushed into the actual pit on Exegol by Palpatine, Ben Solo was trapped in the world between worlds temporarily and was trained by the Force ghosts of the past to teach him the life force exchange technique. However, the ghosts warned Solo that if used, one would be stuck between the mortal world and the netherworld for who knows how long. Favreau and Filoni are setting it up right now and making a canon to test the waters, if fans want Ben Solo back, or him only back as a Force ghost. Now, here's the deal about this. For those of you that don't know, there's a lot of mystery behind the life force exchange. And this makes a lot more sense. A lot of fans were always questioning, how did Ben Solo learn that technique? Did Luke teach him this idea? Did Leia teach him that idea? Nobody really knows. We never really got to learn that in canon. And now, Favreau and Filoni are making a canon that when he was tossed in that pit, because by the way, there is a vergence in the Force underneath the surface of Exegol, and by the way, the vergence is connected to the WBW, it makes a lot of sense now. So he's down there in the pit, he's trapped in the world between worlds. That's where the Force ghosts teach him this ability. However, they also warn him that if he uses it, he's going to be trapped in between the netherworld and the mortal world. Now, I like that idea. I like where Favreau and Filoni are going. This is basically their version of purgatory, and exactly how it applies to Star Wars. And again, George Lucas, this is basically what George Lucas would have done. It's always about taking real aspects of the real world and people's beliefs and mythology and different religions and just throwing it into the Star Wars world. And that's why I think Star Wars is so relatable to all different types of people, because it takes elements of many different aspects in the real world. Whether you believe in certain things or don't believe in certain things, people relate to many different things that are thrown into the Star Wars universe. So that brings us to the next thing here of what Favreau and Filoni are doing, is that they are also making a post-Episode 9 series. Both Adam and Daisy have already been approached to make some cameos in this new live-action post-Episode 9 show, which by the way is going to be announced at next year's D23. That makes a lot of sense because they're setting things up in the canon for that. And that's most likely where this new canon piece is going to be explained. Most likely first it'll be made canon in a book, hence why it's going to be made canon next year, followed by it being mentioned in that post-Episode 9 show that Favreau and Filoni are actively working on right now as we speak. So overall, guys, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this. What do you think about this below in the comments? And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon.